It is knife review time on the Apostle P channel. Stay tuned for a review / history lesson coming up. Hi gang, Rob here. It's the evening of 12 November 2013, and yeah, got a knife review for you tonight, and it's one that has had a bit of a journey over its life. The Spyderco Native. This particular one in my hands, the Native 4. But before I get into the specifics of this particular iteration of the Native, I want to kind of go over a little history, because the Native is a model with a rich history in Spyderco lore. It begins in 1996. At that time, Spyderco was still a relatively small knife company. And they had designs on growth. And Sal Glesser entered into negotiations with Walmart. Yeah, Walmart. For Spyderco to supply a knife to the biggest of big box stores. And for those of you who know anything about how Walmart does things, well, you know, if you go into Walmart to buy a Toro, it's not exactly the same Toro. If you go into Walmart to buy a Weber grill, you know, it might not be exactly the same Weber grill. They kind of take on products to their retail operation with recognizable names, but able to be offered at a price point a little bit lower than those names are usually sold at. And, you know, they're also pretty forceful about helping those names, those companies who sell their wares at Walmart, fit into the market niche that is the Walmart shopper. And the reason I spend a little time on that is because it explains the development of the design of this knife. At the time, you know, the biggest selling Spyderco was the Endura, and it had a very distinctive Spyderco look. It was kind of a swoopy handle, and it had this big thumb ramp and a hump that housed a round hole. And let's face it, guys, Spyderco knives in 1996 didn't look like anything else. And the knife buyer's eye kind of looked at him and went, "What is that?" Whatever it is, it's not very pretty. So, other than pricing, which we'll discuss in a minute, Walmart convinced Sal Glesser to design a knife without the hump, so that when it was open, even when it's closed, it had a more conventional pocket knife profile, which the Native has. Excuse me. And then there was the pricing issue. Although even by 1996, Spyderco did have some production being done in Seki City on their knives, that was still a little more expensive than it was going to take to sell a knife at Walmart in a 3-inch plastic handled folder market. So the first Natives produced, which are now known as the Native BRK, were not produced by Spyderco in Golden, Colorado, and they weren't produced in Seki City. They were produced by the Camillus Knife Company. The irony in all that, though, is after the knives were designed, prototyped, and produced, the deal with Walmart fell through. So the lifespan of that first Native, the BRK, not really sure where that acronym comes from, or those initials. That lifespan was pretty short. But the Native lived on. The original knives, I believe, were produced in 440A steel. And after satisfying the order with Camillus for the BRKs, I believe production was then moved to Saki City. I think some natives were produced in VG10 steel, and the early knives were pretty much this construction. The BRKs did have a different jimping pattern. It was a little closer together and a little bit longer run of jimping. That second generation of natives gave us this really sort of coarse square cut pattern that those of you who have handled or own natives, you know how good it is. It's really, really good. Your thumb just falls in it and it sticks. It's kind of like Velcro jimping. Really, really good. And then, because it wasn't marketed at a big box store, and there was probably lots of design time put into it, and it was kind of a cool blade design, neat little drop point, hollow ground from about half breadth down, ground pretty thin with this weight reducing swedge, which I think just makes it look cool. The Native became kind of a test bed for handle materials, blade steels. About 30 different iterations of the Native have appeared over the years. And the steels have been many and varied. The main production ones, the 440A, VG10, and then CPM 440V, which was the Crucible's powdered metal version of 440. And then the two current models, the Native 4 lightweight, which is what this is, and the Native 5 use S30V and S35VN respectively. This is a Native 4. It does have the bidirectional textured FRN handle, fiberglass reinforced nylon. Although it's a little different, a little smoother than the Volcano grip that you find on the Endura and the Delica. Not quite as grippy on your thumb. Having said that, though, I just peeled some skin off my thumb. This chassis still maintains that sort of old school reversible Spyderco clip with the big barrel fastener. Just one big fastener, which doubles as a lanyard hole. Kind of cool. Although it is a little large and overwhelming to this small knife, the clip works well. It attaches easily, and it grips well in your pants without being hard to get in and out. Not a bad deal. Let's talk about some dimensions. We got blade length, and I've already sort of described its shape, of 3 1/8 inches. And notice this is a current model produced in Golden, Colorado, USA. Earth. Spyderco CPM S30V. Okay, we have a handle length of 3.937 or 15/16. But, now do this math, guys. I'm not quite sure how they do this. Overall length, 7 inches. I'm pretty sure 3 1/8 plus 3 15/16 doesn't equal 7. And frankly, I was not really motivated to find out where the discrepancy is. Blade thickness is 1/8 of an inch. And the weight, a very svelte 2.65 ounces. And it is a lockback or a mid-lock, however you'd like to say that. I think it was in the Native 3 or maybe just this 4 that the Boy Dent appeared on the Native. Notice it is a pinned or riveted construction. You'll not be taking this apart, and there are no washers, which frankly blows. I really never thought I was going to own one of these knives, and let's just get into that now. Look at this. I mean, that's not the camera, guys. It's really that notchy, and frankly, I think it's kind of worse after I oiled it. It's just not good. If you if you open it with authority, with sort of a full engagement kind of move, it does okay, but wow. The action's just horrendous. That's not why you buy this knife. How about blade play? We have zilch up and down and zilch side to side. It's very tight. And you know, I don't know how old this knife is. I got it used, but I know it's been used, and it's still really tight. So although it is just FRN handle, no liners, no washers, riveted construction, apparently pretty durable. This knife used to belong to my YouTube subscriber and Christian brother, Toad Sticker. I won this in his 100 subscriber giveaway. It's kind of funny because he and I had joked a little bit about this knife and others like it in Spyderco's lineup. You know, I am not a big FRN handle Spyderco lockback kind of guy. I just don't love them. And you know, the blade grind on the Native is kind of funky. You got this big broad leaf-shaped blade with this little tiny hollow ground thing going on. It, you know, it really doesn't look like much of a cutter, although it is kind of a cool to look at grind. And you know, Toad Sticker kind of knew the Native wasn't like on my radar to buy, and he knew why. And I entered his giveaway not because I really wanted to win, but well, he had this mini Presidio that he was giving away, the U.S. shooting team mini Presidio with the blue handle and the black blade. And I just thought it was cool, so I entered. You know, I don't need to win knives in contests, and I didn't want to, you know, I didn't really want to encroach on some of Toad Sticker's newer subscribers, but I did. I entered, you know, kind of wanting to win that Benchmade. Well, I didn't get drawn for the Benchmade, and then he drew my name for the Native, and he chuckled as he did it. I wouldn't have been too disappointed if he would have just, you know, edited that out and drawn another name, but he drew mine, and we talked a little bit afterward, and I thought, because he said, I don't even know if you're going to want this knife. I said, you know what, I'm going to sharpen it, I'm going to put edge on it, I'm going to carry it for a little while, and I'm either going to warm up to it, or, you know, I'll pay it forward. It'll show up in one of my giveaways. So, I get the knife, and I got it in hand, and I'd heard that the grip was a little funky if you're back here in the main choil. I don't really think that it is, although it's a bit of a reach for the thumb to the jimping. But when you come forward, ooh, what a great little fine work EDC blade you have. I will say this though, the forward choil has been improved a little bit in the Native 5 with the G10, as has the construction. The Native 5 is a steel liner knife, G10 handle scales, and it uses the bushing pivot like a paramilitary 2 and a lockback, which is really cool. That blade, when you press the lock, drops free. Pretty neat. But this choil is kind of a little bit jacked up. You have the rough cut surface of the blade. I don't know if these are water jetted or lasered, but that's sort of an unfinished surface. And then the portion of the choil that's in the handle isn't curved, it's straight, which is a little odd. But I don't find it uncomfortable. You kind of lock your index finger in there, and you've got this nice round nub between you and cutting edge. You're not ever going to go forward onto the blade. The ergos, I think, are kind of cool. I don't dislike them at all. I mean, every grip, that sort of hammer grip, it's hard to find a comfortable spot, I guess. But I'm not sure you're ever going to use this knife in that sort of heavy push-cutting hammer grip. As I said, this jimping, attention all knife makers. If you want to know how to do good jimping on a knife, copy the Native. It's perfection. I mean perfection. It will not cut you or hurt you, but you cannot slip off of it. I'll try to get a close-up on that profile of that jimping. It's just perfect. Yeah, just perfect. One thing I didn't expect was how thin this hollow grind is behind the edge and how fine the point is. Just really, really, really nice for an EDC knife. I guess size-wise, you could compare this, size-wise and from a construction standpoint, you can compare this to a Delica. And versus a saber ground Delica, this knife blows it away. I mean, yeah, the action might not be as smooth, especially as a Delica 4 with steel liners and washers, but even Delicas with steel liners and washers don't really have smooth actions. And they generally have more blade play than this knife has. And this is certainly the better cutter. That saber grind is horrible. It's a durable grind, but it's not a cutter. The blade steel is better than VG10. You know, your full flat ground Delicas might have a bit of a cutting advantage over this knife, but this is better than a saber ground Delica in my eyes. And the ergonomics are better because of the forward choil. And an EDC blade, that's such a nice feature to have. And it's kind of too bad in the Delica 4 that it doesn't have it, because it has room for it. It's just not the front surface of the handle and the rearward surface of the blade just aren't, they're not fashioned in that forward choil. There's a point that juts out at the end of the handle and a flat surface on the blade. It could just be better. I would expect if there becomes a Delica 5, you'll see that feature. So, you know, this sort of goofy little old school Spyderco that I really didn't want to like, I kind of do. And one of the reasons I like it so much is because the blade is so pretty. I mean, you know, it has nothing to do with function. Kind of a cool little old Spyderco sort of nightmare grind, you know, and cool swedge, and it's way too short to be a tactical blade, but it sure looks like it might be. You know, it's kind of the baby chicken hawk of tactical knives. The last thing I'm going to complain about with this knife, though, is the way the edge was ground from the factory. I mean, yeah, wow. And Toad Sticker had done a great job putting a micro bevel, a real polished micro bevel on it with his Lansky, I believe. But the edge grind was pretty okay from about here forward. But as it comes down to the ricasso, and there's on this side of the knife, you can see the remnants of it. It was ground so thin, and that secondary bevel was so broad. I mean, it went up the hollow grind about 1/8 of an inch, and you can see where I didn't clean up when I reprofiled. I just wasn't going to take any more metal than that. It was like that on both sides, but this side not quite as bad. You can just see some sort of shadows of no cleanup. I don't know. I don't know what the deal was there, and I don't know if other Native 4s have the same problem, but it just wasn't good. But it is S30V, and it is Spyderco S30V, and it did take a keen edge, and I think it does cut. Of course, I think it cut before I worked on it. I just wanted to make it look prettier. Let's see how my edge came out here. Really good. I mean, really good. For a first crack at S30V, and normally S30V sort of, for me, I sharpen it, it's okay, I work it for a little bit, I strop it, I work it a little more, I strop it, it gets better. This came out really good first time out. Let's just find that tip is. It's actually pretty maneuverable out there. Huh. I don't hate this little knife. Not by a long shot. I think it'll actually see some pocket time. I don't know. You know, who knows? Next time I have a giveaway, maybe around 2,500 subscribers, maybe it'll find its way into the prize package. But for now, I think I'll just keep her for a while. The reports of the the Native not being a very good knife are highly exaggerated. It's actually kind of cool. And it's sort of an evolutionary statement for Spyderco, I think. Kind of digs back into the history of how the company developed. Oh, by the way, I think about 2005, 9 years or so after the BRK Natives were not accepted by Walmart, the Natives showed up on shelves at your local Walmart. But I think they showed up Spyderco's way, not Walmart's way. You can buy these knives for $70 or so, just like this one. The Native 5s, with a little higher level of construction and materials, they sell for a little more, somewhere in the 120 to 150 range, I think. And they're probably worth it. And those blades are full flat ground too, I believe. Look a lot like a domino blade, actually. So there you have it. Pretty cool. If you see one of these for sale cheap, I'd say buy it and use it. And enjoy it. That's all for tonight, guys. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the Word is sharp.